Okay, so I made a little web page here to display the transparency in effect in the page. So this is what the web page looks like. And here's what the HTML looks like, super simple. Uh, and I just have the background image on the page of some soccer grass. And then I've got an image tag in here where I'm going to put the images. So I'm going to start out with the JPEG. And so I'll save for web like I did and make it 600 pixels wide. Use JPEG compression, and I'll just leave it white for this example just so you can see what it's going to look like. And I'll go ahead and save that, and I'll call it the soccer balls cutout JPEG. That'll work. And then I'll also save one in the GIF transparency, and I'll choose, because I'm putting it on some green grass, I'll choose some green color for the matte. But I've got this shadow on there, so it's still doing this weird thing. I'll save it. That's going to be my GIF. And then I've still got the ping in there that I saved in the last video with ping 24, so that I could have alpha transparency and have that shadow show up. So I've got that one in there already. And I believe on the GIF I forgot to change it to 600, so I'll fix that. Alright, so now in my folder here, I have the GIF, the JPEG, and the ping. So let's look at what those look like in the web page. So I'll start with the JPEG, and here's how that looks in the page. So no transparency, it's a big old rectangle. JPEGs will always appear as a rectangle in your web page. So white matte color, because that's what I chose. So don't like that. Let's try the GIF. So here's what the GIF looks like. And regardless of what might have been the best color to choose for my matte, that shadow is never going to look good. Now, in a minute, I'll show you one without the shadow, and we'll select a good color for the GIF matte, so you can see what that would look like without something that requires alpha transparency like this shadow. But let's look at the ping first. So I'll switch it to the ping. And here's what the ping looks like. So there's my soccer ball with the shadow. You can see that's a much better optimized image. You see how the shadow moves around as I move the page around. So for something that requires alpha transparency, much better option is ping. It does make the file a lot bigger, so it will load more slowly. So there's a downside to using alpha transparency, but if you need to use that, ping is your method of compression for that. I'm going to turn off this shadow, and I'm going to open up the soccer field graphic that I have and use the eyedropper here in Photoshop. It's right here, eyedropper tool, and just click in this grass right here to get a color that matches the grass to some degree. And so here's that color, and it is now my foreground color in Photoshop. I can also see the hex number for it right here if I need that. But I don't need that as long as it's my foreground color. Go back over here to the soccer ball. I turned off my shadow, so I don't need alpha transparency. And when I compress, I'm going to use the GIF compression method for this because that gives me a smaller file size. I can't use JPEG because it does not offer the transparency at all. And if I use ping 24, even at 600, let me switch the size, 600 pixels, this is 88K in ping 24. Let's see what it looks like in GIF. 14, so it's much smaller. So since I don't need alpha transparency, I'm not going to use the ping 24. I'm going to use this GIF. So first I'll save it without changing the matte color. Let's say I forget. So I'm going to save the GIF and see how that looks in my web page. So it looks okay, but if you look down here at the bottom, you can see that that image is, there's a white edge all the way around it, and especially down here, that's very noticeable. So that's the matte, that's that white matte color, which I don't want. So if I go back and optimize again, but this time for my matte color, I'm going to use that foreground color. And that's that green from the grass. So it's matching the background of the web page I'm building it into. 600. And now when I save that, go back over and refresh the page, you can see that by using that green matte, it's still there. There's a little green outline around the ball, but it's so much better at fitting into this page than the white one was. It looks really, really good. So the matte does come into play if you don't need the alpha transparency. If you're saving a GIF, something that does have a transparent background, you got to choose a good matte color so that it'll blend in with its background as well as it can. And that gives you the ability to create transparent images and integrate them into a web page in a kind of a seamless way. So I'm going to do one more video and show you how to remove the background from an object, and then you should be set for taking an object out of its background, optimizing it for the web using the right transparency options so that you can get it into a web page for working with transparent items.